Africa, a tough continent, a place where every dollar is stretched to the limit, a place where vehicles of every kind are asked to deliver year after year in the most hostile of conditions. It is one of the hottest places on earth. It is some of the roughest roads in existence, yet it is also the making of legends, a place that separates the men from the boys. In 1988, Nissan coined a phrase to describe a newly developed range of pickups, Hardbody. And as the name implies, it described a set of qualities which would become a brand in its own right. Tough, durable and dependable. As we will find out today though, it is not by accident, but by design. Today we're meeting with Mr. Molefe. He's the fleet buyer for Moana African Group at the Frida Rebecca gold mine in Harare. It's about 90 kilometers north of Harare. There they've got a fleet of 82 vehicles, mostly Ford Rangers and Toyotas it seems. So Mr. Molefe, perhaps you can start by you telling me what role these vehicles will play in your business.
Well, Neil, let me start off by saying that this is a very tough business. We have to be competitive to be profitable. And we have to manage our finances very carefully. These unreliable vehicles that take too long to fix when they're down are costing us a lot of money and are doing nothing. What I'm looking for is a vehicle that, all things considered, will make good business sense. That means low downtime and low cost per mileage. For what they do, these vehicles, I need a high-end pickup for my site managers and my engineers, and I need a rough and tough, low-cost pickup to do all our machinery deliveries.
No problem. I think we have exactly what you're looking for. First of all, we're dealing with a long-established brand when it comes to Nissan. And secondly, we have benchmark after-sales service. And in terms of product with a hardbody, we offer the widest range of derivatives of any of the manufacturers out there. As I guessed, Mr. Molefe had some good and some bad experiences with his current fleet. He explains that he expects his vehicles to do hard duty over a 3-year period, during which they might rack up over 400,000 kilometers, many of which are hauling considerable loads, human and otherwise. Road conditions vary, but he stressed we would expect the worst, as lots of it is on dirt roads. He has also experienced problems with diesel fuel quality affecting engine performance and reliability. Transmission problems are fairly frequent too. One thing was made clear though, when it does go wrong, Mr. Molefe expects the manufacturer to support their product in terms of after-sales service, not negotiable. So he was pretty impressed with the fact that Nissan have a high supply rate on parts through our extensive dealer network. Mr. Molefe, what I brought along here today are 2 versions of the Nissan Hardbody.
I see.
Behind me here we've got the 2-wheel drive single cab stripped down version, which is really the workhorse of the family.
Okay.
And then over there we've got the double cab 4x4, which is more suited to maybe your site managers or engineers. Before we get going, however, I gave Mr. Molefe the lowdown on the engine and fuel requirements for the YD25. Now the Hardbody takes 75 litres of fuel. And under ideal test conditions, this engine returns 8 litres to 100 kilometers, which is almost a litre better than its nearest competitor. And I'm sure you'll agree that'll be a considerable saving on your bottom line.
True, Mr. Neil. Fuel is always a big part of the expense base. How do you do that?
We have a 2.5 litre, 4-cylinder, turbo diesel, direct injection engine. Now many manufacturers are sort of downsizing their engines today, so losing a bit of bulk and making up for it with technology.
I see.
So basically what you have here is an engine that produces the power of a 3 litre, but it's got the economy of a much smaller engine.
Oh, is that so?
Let me list a few of these technologies for you. First of all, common rail injection. It's the principle of the fuel being directed at very, very high pressure, about 1,000 times that which you put into your tires, directed into the engine, which atomizes the fuel, causing it to burn very, very efficiently, giving you more power. Next up is turbocharging.
Yeah.
Now turbocharging is sort of an artificial lung for an engine.
It's sort of like breathing.
Correct. And what it does, it uses exhaust gases that spins up a turbine, and this in turn forces more air back into the engine.
I I see.
So more air, again, gives you more power. So compressed air is hot, however. So intercooling is sort of an air radiator. So it's trying to cool down the air that comes from the turbocharger.
I see.
And cooler air is denser and it contains more oxygen, giving you more power on every stroke.
Now we do have a few other non-turbo diesel engines available too, including a 64 kilowatt 2.7 litre unit, which can better deal with the low quality fuel available in some regions. That is the one I would recommend as your workhorse. Then there is a 3.2 litre diesel unit with 76 kilowatt, and finally a 2.4 litre twin cam petrol engine with 105 kilowatts.
But my favorite is this turbo unit.
Yes.
It pushes out a class-leading 98 kilowatts. That's about 25
Come
kilowatts.
on, Mr. Neil. That's just bar talk. This is no sports car. You know, what's important here is low-end power. And that's what a big engine like this should be delivering, right?
Yes and no. You're right in that tractability or torque delivery is what it's really about. But despite its capacity, this engine has in the region of 20% more torque than a normal 2.5. That's over 300 Newton meters. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, let's take her on the road and see what she can do.
So Mr. Molefe, you mentioned to me that you've had the odd clutch problem on some of your fleet.
Yes.
Now what we have here is a 35-degree slope and over a 70% gradient.
Wow.
Now the real test of any engine's torque capability is to drive up here, stop halfway, and then pull off again. You ready to have a go?
Let's check it out.
And have a go he did. In fact, we both did. Mr. Molefe was pretty impressed by the Hardbody's tenacity on the steep slope. The torquey engine and as tough as nails clutch and transmission did everything he asked of them without even raising a sweat.
Now you mentioned some pretty tough conditions this morning.
Yes.
And what we have here is Geritech suspension track, and designed to simulate the worst possible conditions imaginable. Designed specifically to test suspension parts, shock absorbers, and the chassis.
Try as he might, Mr. Molefe couldn't summon up a rattle or squeak from the Hardbody, despite his best efforts.
Pretty impressive, Neil. So what's the trick?
Well, I can tell you, but then I have to kill you. No, seriously, let me show you. Take a look down here, Mr. Molefe. The Hardbody has a ladder frame chassis.
Right.
And it's got 5 cross members, providing an extremely rigid chassis structure. And even though the body is under torsion, I can easily open the doors.
And what about the body itself?
Well, Nissan treated with rust protection, which means it can handle high humidity and damp conditions. Anything you can really throw at it.
You know, my drivers can be pretty careless. Mr. Neil, what if they really do bump it?
Well, we've kept the styling rugged and simple, which means it's got a utility aesthetic, and it's really easy to repair. If you look up here, it is the only 1-ton pickup in its class that has a reinforced load bed. It also has double strength chains and a very easy to use pull type lever. It's got nice sturdy hooks to secure a payload as well.
I see.
And it offers class leading payload capability.
Okay.
One of the quality checks that we actually do is to fire diamond chips onto the paint to ensure that it can cope with gravel.
Again, pretty impressive, Mr. Neil. Okay, what's next?
Okay, next is the sandpit. Now, downtime is never a good thing, right?
Yeah.
and getting a vehicle bogged down is just time and money wasted. So this shed is actually filled with sand, especially thrown in from the Sahara. And this is so fine that it'll test the traction to the absolute limit.
Wow.
You ready to have a go?
Oh yes, check it out. Quite capable without diff lock, huh?
Exactly. The limited slip differential ensures grip by transferring power to the non-slipping wheels when necessary. Diff locks are great for these circumstances, but if a driver forgets to disengage them on the road, he will tear the diff apart in short order or cause excessive breakages. Of course, we didn't stop there. I made sure Mr. Molefe took every opportunity to throw whatever he could at the hardbody, on and off the road. He was up to his ankles in mud and he had his heart in his mouth at times, but he couldn't find a situation that the hardbody couldn't deal with. With a ground clearance of 220 millimeters, the hardbody didn't miss a beat over the rough stuff.
Well, Mr. Neil, I have to say, I come away pretty impressed.
As I knew you would. You see, with a hardbody, it has what we call a utility aesthetic, which means it looks tough because it is tough. It's got a proper parts supply network, good after-sales service, the mechanicals are tough as nails, and the bodywork is easy to fix.
Okay.
What more could you want?
Well, what more could I want? I think I've found what I want.
So as the sun set, I knew that for Molefe, something had changed. His perceptions, his expectations. Nissan would call that a shift.